Good afternoon. Welcome to the Engineering and Construction webinar series. This is Eric Mucklow from headquarters of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in Washington, D.C. This webinar is being recorded, so hopefully we'll have it posted in a couple weeks on our website for those of you who have colleagues that may have missed this presentation. Again, if you would like to get AIA credits or CEUs for this session, download the quiz from the website on the screen, mrsi.erdc.dren.mil/sustain. They come in groups of 5. Answer the questions on the quiz and email it to s_e-webinar@usace.army.mil, and we will check that you have your answers correct. And if you included your AIA number, we will give you credit and issue it directly to AIA for their tracking as well. Today, we have document control and collaboration for construction. This webinar will provide an overview of a web-based service for collaboration and management of design and construction documentation. The purpose of this webinar is to illustrate how such a collaboration platform can be beneficial in the exchange and review of documentation that is critical to the process of construction. Our presenter, Bob Caylor, is the Key Accounts Manager for Submittal Exchange, one such vendor in the industry. Bob has been in the software industry since 1991, focusing specifically on document management and workflow systems. He joined Submittal Exchange in 2009, working primarily with facility owners in the public sector. Bob has experience working with the state, federal, and higher education clients. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob.
Thank you, Eric. Again, I appreciate the time today, and looking forward to presenting this information. If for some reason you can't hear me, can somebody let me know, and I'll try and adjust things on my side. There are several traditional software companies and web-based services that focus on the construction industry. Some of them provide financial and project management functionality, while others are focused more on the construction administration requirements. Some were developed to bring value more to a specific project entity, such as an architect or contractor, while others are more neutral by design and also the value that they deliver. But no matter what their initial design intent was, there is some commonality between them because as it pertains specifically to construction documentation. This is primarily because the application they're trying to address is exactly the same. There is a lot of documentation associated with a construction project, and throughout its life cycle, from design all the way through closeout, documents need to be exchanged and distributed and acted on by various project team members. And so my intent here is to illustrate as generically as possible how one of them addresses this particular application. So let's first look at traditional industry practices. 3 primary entities: an owner team, design team, and construction team. Each of them have their own set of tools that they use during the various phases of a project. The contractor has estimating software, scheduling software. The design team has some project management application in addition to their design software. And then on the owner side, there's capital planning and financial applications to make sure that things stay in budget, etc. And then, as mentioned earlier, during this whole process, occasionally information needs to be exchanged. And this is typically done by mail, shipping services or fax, email, FTP sites. Occasionally, you might be on a project where the architect or the contractor is sharing out one of their a license for their application. And although these approaches do a fairly decent job, the larger the project gets, the more convoluted the lines in communication get as well. And so what a lot of companies out there are starting to do is try and provide what's called a neutral collaboration platform. And the concept behind this is to create a table for the project team to get around and exchange the necessary information. The platforms are web-based, So if somebody has an internet connection, a computing device, they can get to the project information. The collaborative by design, meaning that they don't focus specifically on one of the project team entities, but they provide value and access for the whole project team. And some of the benefits for this type of collaboration tool are marking up one electronic copy of each file, as opposed to the 6 or 10 paper-based copies that traditionally are distributed. There's one electronic copy of the most original version that can be accessed and acted on by the appropriate individuals. Instant transfers, eliminating delays. So sending out notifications and reminders and getting and forwarding a particular piece of information onto the next individual so that they can act on it, and then also making sure that they act on it by sending out those reminders. Automatic logging and tracking. This is for the master logs associated with the different types of documents, so that different project team members don't necessarily have to update a manual log, and you spend time reconciling those logs at the very beginning of a project team meeting. The logs are event-driven, they're automatically updated, and they're always real-time. Automatic transmittal and review forms, so that individuals on the project team can fill out the associated forms, the forms associated with their tasks, online, as opposed to having to go to a third-party application and filling it out and then uploading it. Integrated PDF editor, so people can do their comments and markups online, as opposed to needing to download them and mark them up and upload them back to the website. There's the capability of doing it online. Documents available from any location via the internet. Central log accessible by the whole project team. The logs are real-time. These are real-time logs are not only provide additional transparency for the project team, but also are a good accountability tool as well. Reduce the staff time to manage the process. People aren't needing to log information regarding the sending of documentation and receipt of documentation. It helps lower the time it takes to mark up. So there's some administrative savings for the project team as well. Complete archival at closeout, because all of the information pertaining to the project is on a website or on some type of an application that whoever that service provider is, they can provide a full archival. And then, naturally, the elimination of shipping and courier costs associated with the project. So, any of the systems, when somebody logs on, generally what they see is something that's called a project index screen. And it's basically what it sounds like. It's a listing of project that individual is involved with, that the service is helping them maintain the logs and the documentation for. Some will provide some high-level dashboard type information regarding current status for that particular project, but in either case, you would either click on the name or the number to get access to the project. Getting into the project, usually there are a couple of different types of view. One is a high-level view regarding the documentation, generally providing a most current status, and then another view providing more detailed information. Some of the systems provide are more folder-based, so to get the detailed information, it's a matter of drilling down. Others, such as Submittal Exchange, provide two different, are more log-based, and they provide two different views of that information. Also, there needs to be some capability of getting to the individual types of documents. Again, it can be folder-based, so there is a folder for the submittals and RFIs and change orders and meeting minutes, commissioning reports, et cetera, et cetera. Or again, in case of Submittal Exchange, we use a green bar across the top that basically lists the different types of documents that are associated with the project, and somebody would just click on the name of a particular log to get into that log and to view and act on those specific types of documents. Now, the submittal log is organized by section number and section title, taken directly out of the specification or project manual. Other logs, such as RFIs, are organized by categories. Different types of, any of the systems provide some type of flexibility there to ensure that the documents are going to be indexed correctly. And then also, if there's any workflow or process, such as a submittal or an RFI, closeout, change orders, etc., they can make sure, or we can make sure that the appropriate workflow is wrapped around that particular type of document. Now, the activity summary provides a most current status view. So it's basically that higher level view, and it basically is, what's the latest and greatest, what's the most current activity. And so, it provides the ability to see the date that the last activity happened, a link to the file, and in this case, the action code. So this was an architect that reviewed the item and released it, and so the action code associated to the item as well. Now, the other view is a more detailed view, and it provides more of a full linear historical view of all of the activity. There is some commonality between this and the activity summary view. You can gain access to the various documents via the green bar across the top. The submittal log is indexed exactly the same, but as opposed to providing just that most current status, this provides a full historical view of all of the information. So you can quickly see when a document was initially uploaded by a subcontractor or a supplier. If when a contractor takes a look at it, approves it, and then formally submits it to the rest of the team, when that happens. If there's a consultant involved in a particular section, when that consultant did their review. And in this case, the architect is the final reviewer. And so when that happened, the action code, and then the final entry in the log is when the item is returned to the general contractor by the subcontractor. So there is an attempt here to alter the workflow that's associated with a particular project and a delivery method for that project. The intent here is to help automate the process and also to help expedite the process by driving notifications and reminders out, and hopefully shrink the amount of time that it will take to do a review of a submittal, get an answer back pertaining to an RFI, and then hopefully positively impact the construction schedule for a particular project. Now, what you're seeing here is a very common workflow for a construction project, but it doesn't address every single requirement out there in the industry. So a lot of our federal clients, the particular federal agency or the owner is heavily involved in the review process. And so there needs to be the capability of inserting them in the appropriate slot so that they can act on, in some cases, all of the documentation, but in other cases, just specific sections or categories of the documentation. So addressing that particular requirement. Or using construction managers is becoming more and more popular. And so, construction managers have, when it comes to the documentation, have different responsibilities than that of a consultant or an architect or an owner. So being able to provide the capability for a construction manager to act on the documentation, not only at the appropriate time, but also at the appropriate place as well. And so behind this, all of this, to make sure that the individuals on the project team are only acting on the types of documents that they're required to act on, only get access to the documents that they need to get access to, and can only perform the tasks that they're required to perform. There needs to be some type of management behind that. And generally, what systems will do is organize the project team into roles. And so what you're seeing here are some typical roles for a construction project: an architect, consultant, contractor, owner, and subcontractors. But you know, the systems have the capability of adding additional roles. So if there's a commissioning agent, we could add a role to that for that, or a construction manager, et cetera. And at a very high level, the role an individual is assigned will help define what their responsibilities are. Because the responsibility of an architect pertaining to the documentation are completely different than that of a consultant or that of an owner's representative. And then when an individual is added to a role, there needs to be some further definition regarding what their rights are. And so generally their email address is required. In most cases, their email address is the primary user ID, but it's also the email address that systems use to drive out the notifications and the reminders associated with the documents that need to be acted on. And then systems provide the capability of assigning specific types of documents. And what we basically do is use the section numbers and the categories to do that. And the benefit there is to ensure that consultants, subcontractors are only getting the notifications and reminders on the documentations that they need to act on. And the other part of that is in the case of a subcontractor, is that a subcontractor can't inadvertently submit documentation to a section that they're not involved with. So the more that you can narrow the documents that they have access to and that they can act on, the less likelihood there is of errors associated with the upload of or the review of documents. RFIs, probably the third most popular document or log that's being used on, at least on our system anyway. And the benefit of using a system such as ours on these types of documents is that there is a workflow associated with it, so you can help stay on track of that. Generally, RFIs are organized by categories as opposed to section numbers and section titles. And then, again, you can take advantage of the automation of a collaboration system to make sure that a RFI is automatically forwarded to the next individual in line associated with getting that response back to the contractor, and then also take advantage of the notifications and reminders to help hopefully shrink the amount of time or lessen the amount of time that it takes to get that response back. Now, there are other types of documents that are very important to a construction project, such as supplemental instructions, meeting minutes, test reports, other types of documents that, possibly photos, that don't necessarily have a structured workflow associated with them, but they're important documentations. And so there needs to be capability of sharing those, you know, and the benefit is of using a collaboration tool for these types of documents, in addition to the ones that have some type of workflow associated with it, is that you come closer to a central repository for all of the documentation. And then the other thing is you can take advantage of a collaboration tool so that as soon as an architect posts a supplemental instruction to the electrical category, in this case, everyone that's assigned to that category is going to receive a notification letting them know that there's a new document out there that needs to be looked at. Now, this type of system will also provide a full audit trail on the back end that gives the facility owner additional tools to help keep the project team accountable. And this can be viewed in a couple of different ways. Generally, there is a global listing of all of the activity, basically listing by date, everything that happens when somebody logs on, when they log off, when something is downloaded, when something is uploaded, etc. And on a large project, there could be thousands of entries in here. So in order to make it a little bit more useful to the project team, there's a capability of getting that information on individual item basis as well. Now we provide that capability in what we call a detailed view, which can be viewed simply by clicking on the description of an item. And when you do, second.
You get stuck?
Yeah, Eric, I'm stuck. I apologize. My number is increasing, but the slide is not changing. Is it changing on your side?
No, it's on 27 right now, but be careful about continuing to click it because it might jump all the way to that point. Sometimes we have some bandwidth issues. Will it let you go back? Oh, I'm a presenter now. Okay, hang on. Okay, hold on a second. I'm going to see if I can maybe re-upload it. I think it seems to be having a problem. Ah, there we go. All right, I'm going to, oops.
Hey, Eric.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay, sorry, I got disconnected.
Oh, okay. There you are. I'll make you presenter again.
I apologize on that.
No problem.
I don't know exactly what happened.
Okay, no, it's the wonderful world of the internet. Okay, I'm turning it back to you.
All right, I think so. Okay, well, so the information can get is accessible on an individual item basis as well. The way that we do it is via what's called a detailed view, and it gives you information regarding the item, a link to the most current version of the item, but it also lets you know the number of uploads, downloads, and notifications that have been sent out as it pertains specifically to that item. And in the case of uploads, it lets you know when an item was uploaded, who uploaded, the company that they're with, and a link to the file that they uploaded. Same thing is true with the download history. And all the notifications and reminders are recorded as well. Again, getting back to additional accountability tools. So one of your engineers that is in a project team meeting and somebody says, well, I didn't get that notification, the download history will be able to make sure that that individual is on the distribution list for that particular document. Okay, issue resolution. In addition to documents where there is a structured workflow, again, such as submittals and RFIs, there is also a lot of documentation associated with the project that needs to be acted on, exchanged, get responses back from various individuals on the project, but it doesn't follow a structured process. And so an issue resolution log of some type is extremely valuable for those types of documents. It's very easy to create a brand new issue simply by clicking on Create New. And what you're able to do, or the individual is able to do, is put in the description of the item, upload a file, could possibly be a photo, assign it to a responsible party, which will drive out a notification, and then give it a due date, and then assign a status to it. Clicking on Save will send that request or that task to that individual. They may act on it and resolve the issue, but maybe they'll forward it to somebody else. And so as that document, piece of communication, drawing goes from various project team members and is acted on until an issue is resolved, there needs to be the capability to record all of that activity so that you know exactly who created it, who the original recipient was, what they did, if they forwarded it to somebody else, who they forwarded to, so to provide a full historical information on the more ad hoc type collaboration, in addition to the structured exchange associated with submittals and RFIs. And an issue type resolution log will help to accomplish that. There's a lot of forms associated with the project. I think I talked about this at the very beginning. And so providing the capability for a contractor to fill out their letter of transmittal, or the consultant and possibly the construction officer having the capability of filling out or completing a form on their side as well is a great productivity tool, and plus those forms are part of the documentation associated with the project. So it just makes sense to incorporate that in whatever software or service somebody is interacting with. This is accomplished by creating a web-based form that the user can interact with as they're performing their task, maybe doing a review, and given the capability of filling out that form, and then when they click on Save, basically creating a PDF copy of the actual form, such as a letter of transmittal or a review form, or with the form in the foreground, an RFI, and including that as part of the documentation packet. PDF viewer editor. Some people have a copy of Bluebeam or Adobe. That's their tool of choice. They like it. They're productive with it. They'll always download a document, mark it up, and upload it back to the software or the web-based service that they're currently using. And that's fine. People do that with Submittal Exchange every single day. But there are some people that don't have a PDF viewer, or excuse me, a PDF markup tool, or they don't want to take the time to do download and upload another document. Maybe it's a very simple markup that they want to do. And so providing the capability of doing that online is not only is it convenient, but it's a good productivity tool as well. And so the PDF markup tool will provide basic functionality as far as markups are concerned, and then also provide the capability of inserting the appropriate stamps as well. So providing the capability for somebody applying their stamp to a review and filling it out online as well. Reporting. I mean, there's a lot of documents. There's a lot of statuses associated with those documents as well. And so providing the capability of getting a report for the individuals or on the project team is important. With Submittal Exchange, you can do that by clicking on the reports link at the top and then choosing the project or projects you want to run a report on. So somebody has doesn't necessarily, if they've got 6 projects that they're using a software on, as opposed to running 6 separate reports, they can choose the reports they want to run, the report they want to run a report on, the type of log they want to run a report on, and the projects they want to run a report on, and do that all within a single report run. And then here is an example of a open items report for a submittal log. So it gives you total number of days open, ball and court information, and pertinent dates as it pertains to the outstanding items associated with this particular log. Automatic archive, extremely important for the owners. We used to stamp CDs and copy flash drives, and just because of the sheer volume of projects that we get involved with, that was somebody's full-time responsibility. Plus, it took time. Clients would make a request for an archival, and it would get in our queue, and it would take a while for the individual to get it through that production line, and then it would be sent. And so we, just for a lot of reasons, we've moved to what's called an archive on demand approach. But in any case that no matter who's doing it, since all of those documents are on the software application or on the web-based service, all of them provide some type of archival. Just how they do it may differ. In our case, you're able to basically click on Request Archive. Once the individual clicks on that, they're able to configure the type of archival that they want, what view they want, what specific logs associated with the project they want, and then click on Submit Requests. And then that goes to the service provider. The archive is compiled, and then requester will receive an email with a link, and they can click on that link and then download the archival onto their local infrastructure, and then that's the copy that they use for long-term storage and retrieval. So generally what the end user would do is take that archival and copy it to the location that they're currently storing project information and project archivals, and then that's the copy after closeout that if they need to reference something, go to a warranty certificate, look at O&Ms, those types of things. That's the location that they'd go to. Now, generally, when you get the archival, it isn't a bunch of flat files and folders out there. I mean, it would take a long time to find a specific shop drawing if the only thing you could search on was the file names. And because there was some type of an indexing structure at the front end, it just makes sense to provide that to the end user as far as the archival as well. in our case, there is what's called a projects log, and if somebody clicked on that, it would open up whatever browser is configured on that computing device and give them a screen that kind of looks like this. And if they click on any of the logs, it'll give them a representation pretty much of what that specific log looked like on the actual website. And then all of the links are active. It's just as somebody clicked on a link, it would retrieve it from wherever they stored it within their local infrastructure, as opposed to going back to the website at that time. And I think this is my last slide, but the other thing important is that there's a technology, there's an infrastructure on the back of that web-based service that needs to basically provide access, provide disaster recovery, provide fault tolerance, all of those types of things to make sure that when a project team member needs to access information, the website is up, it's available, and it's providing, it's providing a secure environment for the information as well. Now, we chose to, 5 years ago, chose to use Amazon as our hosting service provider, and there were a couple of reasons that we did that. One was Amazon has a huge infrastructure, and we were able to take advantage of that as opposed to creating all of the high availability, disaster recovery, et cetera, ourselves. We can plug into the Amazon infrastructure and take advantage of that. And then the other part of that is that Amazon goes through regular audits and certifications, and we're also able to take advantage of those types of things as well. Okay, so any questions?
Thank you very much, Bob. I'm putting the web link, link to the website for the Mercy site on the right there. If you have questions, folks, please just type them in the box, the text entry box in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. I will read them aloud for the sake of the recording, and Bob will answer them as I read them. I'll try to consolidate like questions, so I might skip over some and come back to them and that kind of thing. So otherwise, we have a good 15 minutes or so for questions. So if people will start typing in their questions there, then we could get rolling with it. Again, I want to thank Bob for coming. It looks like a very comprehensive and thorough system. Right now we have an RMS system, which is a Corps of Engineers system, that allows us to basically capture submittals. They can be uploaded, but then they can't be, we don't have that thorough collaboration aspect of it, and that might be something that would be of interest, or other contractors might want to use to be able to pass the documents around. Contracting also has a system that we have yet to get coordinated with between the engineering and construction division and the contracting division, but that's also something that they would like to see. But they've got a lot of kinks to work out, and so I think these online collaboration tools are probably the way of the future. So one person has asked, is the Corps of Engineers moving toward this type of system and move away from RMS? That's actually, I guess, more of a question for headquarters. I don't think that we're moving away from RMS. It might be something where we have a front end or something like that, or some way of connecting the two, or that RMS would be expanded to this kind of capability. That would probably be another whole issue with budgeting and funding for a major project. But we have had discussions in the past about having third-party software vendors that have these types of systems be able to have digital connectivity into our RMS. There's a lot of issues when you get into connecting things directly, though. But we'll see. That will be something that we can keep on the radar and keep plugging for it, and maybe someday we'll get there.
Along those lines, Eric, if you don't mind, I'd like to. There are several projects out there, core projects, where Submittal Exchange is being used. Usually, it's brought to the table by the contractor. But what we have found is because of just like Eric shared, that there isn't a lot of replication between what we do in RMS, what RMS does. It seems like the two, at least right now, complement each other fairly well.
Right. I don't think there's a lot of overlap. I think that you're definitely providing something that that a lot of Corps of Engineer offices could use, and it would not be something that would displace RMS. If anything, the compatibility could be enhanced by making the link automatic, or whatever you want to call that.
Yes, and we have what's called an API that can accomplish that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the question.
Pardon me?
I said thank you. I was whoever did that. I was thanking them for the question.
Oh, no problem. And let's see, is the information secure? For example, for UCNI, are you familiar with that acronym?
I am not familiar with that specific acronym, so maybe you can help me out.
Yeah, maybe Kimberly, if you would elaborate on UCNI, is that uniform? That's something that we have to. I know he's got it encrypted and things, but DoD has their own standards for that kind of thing.
Yeah, we have, and that's part of the reason that we use Amazon, because all of the certifications and the audits that they go through for their infrastructure, and we are actually being used on other DoD type projects. Generally, if the project is a lower classification, we are good as far as having the capability to be used on that project. Naturally, the higher classification projects that becomes a little bit problematic because just of the nature of the secure requirements for that particular project.
Right. I think that if it says that UCNI is unclassified controlled nuclear information, I'm not familiar how that fits in with like CIPRNet and all that kind of thing, or NIPRNet. Whether we have things that are beyond for official use only. That would probably be a question for our IT people to figure out if this is, if there's something that would require secure access. That would not be connected in any way to the outside world. But usually our construction projects are not that secure in that drawings and all that go out to contractors. Most of the information on the project is shared on the LEED system, for the third-party ratings for getting LEED Silver and all that, filtered for some pertinent information for some secure facilities. But otherwise, there's a lot out there. So I guess, Kimberly, if we want to follow up offline, I think that would be an in-house kind of question to answer. So another question: Is there commercial software that is approved by the Army to use? Is there a pilot program? Now, you mentioned that you already have the Corps of Engineers using your package.
Yes. Not across all of your districts, but we do have
on a project by project basis.
Yes.
Right, but I guess if the contractor brought in, they wanted to use it. Apparently, they've been able to work out because you're basically, you don't really have a software that installs on the network, on the Corps' network or computers. It's all web-based. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And that helps out a lot because there doesn't need to be approval for the installation of a particular software application on the devices. It's just, if you have a browser, you have internet connection, you can get access to the project. And the other thing that helps is that we're not pushing information into your system. You're basically just retrieving information.
Right, so it would be kind of like if one of us were to go to a website and download a resource or a document or something like that. It's not running any code on our servers that could be malicious or anything along those lines.
That's correct.
So I got a question. There's two related questions. ProjNet is another Corps of Engineers internal mechanism. as well as Dr. Checks. I don't know. Are you familiar with Prognet or Dr. Checks? I think those might be
I am
in-house
familiar
systems
with
too.
Dr. Checks, but more on the design side than submittals or RFIs. From the users or owners that I've talked to have used Dr. Checks for design to basically collaborate around design submissions, the comments, replies, those types of things. Not for submittals or RFIs. I really haven't heard of Dr. Checks being used for that particular application.
Right.
I'm not quite sure what the structure for that. Yeah.
It would be used basically Dr. Checks. I've used it for submittals in terms of submissions of AE drawings for an AE contract and things like that.
Okay.
It's a good collaboration tool for. I haven't seen it used. When I was a resident engineer, we didn't use it for that kind of thing. And Prognet, I don't know if we'd have to do a walkthrough. I'm not sure what the intent of that question was. Ricardo, if you could elaborate on, maybe more specific on what you're looking for.
Huh.
Okay.
That's interesting. To respond, for me to respond, I had to see exactly how it was used. But
Right.
if it's providing pretty much the same functionality that you do a submission, and it provides somebody the capability of doing a comment, and then somebody else can do replies, I'm not quite, because to me, at least in my head, a submittal is a very structured process. And so there needs to be some type of a structured workflow to address that particular process. And then, in addition, as opposed to putting comments in a data format, there needs to be formal markups, and there needs to be approval stamps and all those other types of things for a submittal to get through that process and then be released by whoever that is. And maybe Dr. Checks has got that now. I don't know that, but from what I saw, I'm not quite sure how it would do that. But
Well, now that I think about it, and this is kind of getting on a segue, but basically, Dr. Checks, it has the ability. Basically, you upload documents, and we've always used them for design documents. But I suppose you could upload any document that you wanted people to review and comment on and that kind of thing, and issue it to different people and teams and collaborate. So it does have some similar capabilities in that. I think that your system also has a lot of capabilities. But as we started out this webinar, there are multiple things out there. I don't think that Dr. Checks and this software would be I don't think they're both two different brands of Kleenex or tissues. I think they're different in many ways. But yeah, I think Dr. Checks, you probably could use it for construction. I never have seen that done. And I guess that from the person asking, it sounds like they have done it for construction contracts. So there are many ways to skin the cat.
I'll defer to you. You know more about it than I do.
Yeah. Oh well. And apparently they know more about that part of it than I do. Okay, but yeah, they have to get the project details. Sure, if you want to send them to, I'm the only Mucklow in the global. If you want to send it to me, and maybe we can put a follow-up comment on the Mercy site or something. Speaking of websites, the next question is there a website? Do you have a website where we can go see the software, a free trial or something like that, or like a demo site?
Yeah, there's a short demo on the website www.submittalexchange.com. And submittalexchange.com.
Okay, I just typed it in the check. Is that? Oops. Did I spell that right?
Submittalexchange.com. Yep.
I forgot to see that actually. Yeah, type. Well, I guess people can hear you.
I think our name is in the invitation as well, if I recall.
Oh yeah.
But there's some links. There's collateral information there, but there's also a short demo, and then you can also register to get a complete, more in-depth demo. That's a one-on-one demo as well.
Okay, so somebody asked again if this is approved ACIT software. We talked about that a little earlier, and I believe that we'd certainly get ACIT involved, but I believe that this is not software. This is a website interface. So ACIT shouldn't have any. They would not have to do their rigorous software testing to make sure that there's no malicious code or anything, because it doesn't actually install anything on your computer. It's just like you're using this website now for this webinar. It's not running on your computer. It's running on their servers, and so I think the same kind of thing would apply. Basically, you'd find out if you went to Submittal Exchange if you got a firewall block warning that comes up sometimes when you put in websites. They're good about letting us know when they don't want us to do something. Okay, so let's see here. A few more minutes if there's any other questions. Okay, I don't see any other questions. So, Bob, Mr. Caylor, thank you very much for talking to us about this technology and illustrating your version of it. As we've seen on the comments about some of the other tools that we have, there's a lot of stuff out there. It does look like the internet is probably the way we'll be doing things in the future. Right now, we're still officially paper-based when it comes to archives and things for projects with submittals. But RMS has a dovetail into it, and your software definitely has some management features. I think this is continuing on the evolutionary path forward to the paperless office, so to speak, that has been talked about for many years. I want to thank everybody for being online today. We had over 50 people at one point. Apologize for the brief interruption. I think DCS was doing fairly decently today, and I hope to see you all next time.
Thank you, everyone.